Over the weekend and better part of the beginning of this week, William Ruto has hosted some world leaders and known African dictators to get an affirmation and a breather in the reality that he is one-term president and get a reprieve of the political pressure in the country. The African Forward Summit happening in Nairobi is just a sideshow of Mr. William Ruto to hoodwink Kenyans on the matters that affect them. But what is coming out of it is nothing for the Kenyan people. Anything, where is it for the common Kenyan without medical care, education, or security in their own country? We thank the United Nations Secretary General for coming to Nairobi so that we address him from here on the danger that the Horn of Africa faces, courtesy of his host, Mr. William Ruto, the man in charge. Thank you for coming. We shall tell you why Kenyans made noise and why they will make some more noise when you meet them in the streets in your morning. Unknown to Antonio Guterres and Emmanuel Macron, we want to let them know whom they are dining with. Mr. William Ruto, a man who is the greatest disrespecter of the rule of law, the greatest human rights violator, a vicious man, a callous character, a con master and a practicing dictator on internship from Abductions, Suluhu, Yoweri Museveni, and his contemporaries from other African countries, especially the ones dining at State House now for a talk show. This is a man who in June 2024 butchered Gen Zs in their numbers, abducted others. This is the man who is the real primary responsibility bearer of the war in Darfur, where thousands of women and children are being butchered. Instead of boasting of hosting over 30 presidents in Nairobi, William Ruto must focus on solving domestic issues. 3 days ago, six Kenyans in Mandera were brutally butchered by Jubilant forces who continue to illegally occupy the Kenyan soil. 7 other Kenyans are fighting for their lives in hospital, and not a single word from William Ruto. As we speak, Mandera County remains insecure and a big threat to the peace in the Horn of Africa. This is highly occasioned by issuance of Kenyan national IDs to non-Kenyan Somalis to enable them get an easy access to passports across the world. This has opened the world to terror groups in terrorist shells in Somalia. We are aware of this. And I must say, dangerous trade disadvantages genuine Kenyan Somalis as they are held in suspicion while applying for visas to travel to various nations across the world. Mr. Guterres, be informed, Ruto is the greatest threat to Kenyan democracy and human rights violation. Kenya has become a haven of state-sponsored goonism and political intolerance. Ahead of the 10th August 2027 polls, Kenya risks to have over 2 million goons in the streets, courtesy of William Ruto's creation. Kenya risks the Haiti route. Women and children are tortured and attacked in churches with live ammunition, tear gas canisters, and the brutality of clubs and machetes, not once, not twice. Businesses belonging to certain communities are being torched by goons under police escort, and the president remains silent. Mr. William Ruto is, in a mischievous way, creating electoral fear and voter suppression. Kenya risks slipping into anarchy. Might William Ruto be tempted to rig elections that he is about to lose? We urge the world, and especially the UN Secretary General, that the actions and omissions of President William Ruto ahead of 2027 polls. Mr. Antonio Guterres, Kenya has become a global hub for abductions, human trafficking, an international drug superhighway, an international drug destination. Foreigners and asylum seekers in Kenya have no peace. At least 50 foreign nationals have been abducted, tortured, or killed on Kenyan soil. Over the two categories: transnational targeting asylum seekers and political and terrorist-related kidnappings in specific high-risk regions. On the transnational repression and asylum seekers, the government of has colluded with foreign governments to seize political dissidents and asylum seekers. For instance, in October 2024, 7 Turkish asylum seekers were abducted in Nairobi in a mafia style and brutally tortured. 4 were forcibly returned to Turkey, despite international criticism regarding the principle of non-refoulement. In October 2024, Ugandan opposition leader Dr. Kiza Besigye was abducted in Nairobi and deported to Uganda to face political charges in the In January 2025, a Tanzanian journalist, Maria Sarungi, was abducted in Nairobi and was headed to Tanzania for charges and jail under Samia Suluhu, but Kenyans stopped it. Nationals from Southern Sudan, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Rwanda have been targeted for their political activism or criticism of their home governments. They are not safe in Kenya. On William Ruto's dalliance with M23 rebels, the DRC president was visibly uncomfortable visiting Kenya for the summit, and thereafter he stayed for President Museveni's inauguration, a clear statement of his discomfort with Kenya's interference in DRC Congo. On the issue of peace in the Horn of Africa, Mr. Guterres, now that we are here in Kenya, we have severally warned about the war in Darfur, Sudan, Southern Sudan, DRC conflict, and Somalia. We have also spoken about Ruto's involvement through his good and direct assistance to rebels, especially Mr. Hemeti. Mr. Guterres, yesterday, you described the Sudan crisis as a nightmare and a carnage spilling out of control. You called for immediate ceasefire. You also condemned external interference. You also say this is a grave humanitarian violation of human rights, causing regional instability. You called for accountability. Unfortunately, you are seated with the very men in charge and responsible for what you are condemning, William Ruto. Mr. Guterres, you were seated with the war commander, and he hosted you to a state banquet yesterday night. You cannot talk about normalizing situation in Sudan when you are hosted by the commander and the men responsible for insecurity in the region. Recent exposes by media and other institutions have vindicated me. The following is the list of criminals from Somalia, Zimbabwe, Southern Sudan, and Sudan who have been issued with Kenyan diplomatic passports, and they are housed here in Nairobi by William Ruto, and they continue to cause havoc in their countries. Children and women in Sudan and DRC are crying because of his actions with M23. The media will be giving you a list of criminals, national criminals, most facing sanctions, drug traffickers that have been issued by passports, the worst minister for interior since independence. A man, for the right price, will sell in the world. We'll be giving you that list so that you can also cross-check. The world must know that Kenya is an international and destination as well. In Mr. Ruto's cabinet sits 2 drug barons, Mr. Antonio Guterres. In Russia and Ukraine, as of May 2026, over 1,000 Kenyans are estimated to have been lured into fighting for Russia in the Ukraine war. Deaths reported. Many are tricked by force William Ruto and some of his cabinet secretaries who are actively involved in these matters. Of this atrocity must face the law. To the president, in the presence of Emmanuel Macron from France, it is important we let you know why Kenyans made noise to you at the University of Nairobi Taifa Hall. Disrespect or hatred. They had a message for you. To French firms to a tune of Kenya shilling 7 billion being proceeds of crime, as their children are not in school and they have no food on the table. Mr. Macron, on September 30, 2020, under President Uhuru Kenyatta road. However, the deal by President William Ruto administration, even contractor commenced works, ushering in Chinese to give room for corruption. The entry of the Chinese contractors, CRBC, came after in April last year. Based on reports emerging in May 2026, the Auditor General has flagged of approximately 7.3 billion Kenya shillings from the fuel levy intended for road maintenance to pay French firms for the cancellation of the Rironi-Mau Summit toll road contract. Mr. Macron, your French firms had a contract of 150 billion for a bigger scope, 200 billion on a smaller scope, creating a 50 billion fund for corruption by William Ruto and the Chinese contractors. But your biggest interest and the reason why your French firms accepted cancellation of the Rironi-Mau Summit was to get 7 billion shillings without doing anything at all. Mr. Macron, you are an accomplice in the 7 billion Kenya shillings theft from the people of Kenya. That is the money you have actually come to negotiate, not the summit that you are attending. Kenyans, this is a message Kenyans was passing to you yesterday. Kenyans are asking you not to leave our borders with this money. We need it to pay school fees. Mr. Macron, if Kenyans be the children of Meru County risk missing going to school because is demanding 64 million shillings from the county administration. This is Mr. Ruto knows about this hotel more than anyone. He informed that the military pact that you signed with Mr. Ruto in 2025 on defense cooperation has caused the construction of the Rironi-Mau Summit because Mr. William Ruto wants delivered to him in cash. But the CRBC are demanding the contract first before they give the money, and William Ruto is demanding the money before he gives the contract.